Now where did I put that? Iron. I'm in the process of dropping the fuel tank, and it's going to be interesting. Everything is rusty, of course. I mean, it is the way it is. I'm going to try to get the fuel line taken off of the gas tank, and then I've got to take the hose off of the gas tank, the filler hose, and then I've got to attempt to take the bolts out, or the nut thing that goes halfway down a threaded shaft. We will see how that works. Other than that, I really, just kind of playing it by ear, going to take one small project at a time and figure out what we're going to do from there forward. I'm going to see if there's any saving of this gas tank. You've seen before that it's pretty well damaged. The guy I bought it from, he did use basically a bobcat with forks on it to move it around, and it bent the bottom of the gas tank, and there's a plug thing in the bottom. I don't know if it's a rubber deal or not. I'll look at it. If I can pound it straight without punching a hole in it, or there aren't other miscellaneous holes where the floor rotted out, we will see. But we're going to try to get that out. Here, I'll bring you down with me. We'll take a look and see what all's going on, and I'll show you what I'm dealing with. Okay, right there, with my hand in front of the light, is interesting. I didn't even think about that. Maybe I could put a wrench on that. I'm going to have to go find my wrenches again. Anyway, I gotta get that broke loose, and I'll move the light. Already got this semi ready to go, but I don't know if you can tell, but that sleeve is part of the nut. It bolts on, or threads onto the bolt. You can tell it's rusty. So, hopefully I can use heat there. I know I'm not going to be able to use heat on the other side. Interesting thing, this is for the license plate. You can tell by the way that it is. There's the other one. I'm sure there was a plastic coupler that went with it, because that would have gone in there, but that's gone. So we're going to figure a new way to do this and make it work. Yeah, I'm looking and see what's going on. That's going to come out eventually. I've determined that the exhaust pipe travels right along here between the wheel hole thing and the gas tank. Interesting. Good thing you don't have a backfire or an explosive ejection from the tailpipe to blow holes and things. That would be bad. Again, you can tell by the way that it is, there were forks pushed along here and kind of bent everything up. I'm going to look at the top of the tank when I finally get it out, and we will see if it's worth saving. Alright, we're going to do some high-speed stuff here, because I'm sure you all want to watch me struggle. Well, let's see where we're at. Why does that do that all the time? Alright, here we go on my first attempt not to break a line. As soon as I find my wrenches back. Where did I put it? Remember, put your tools as far out of reach as you can. Well, that one ain't gonna work. Ooh, good thing I brought the backup. What flavor are you? Hopefully the right flavor. Ooh, goes on. Alright. I'll be lucky. Nope. Oh. Well, we got movement. But we're twisting the line. That's always good. Well, not really a fan of throwing heat on anything. It's not right down here, not. Well, that's going to break off. That means I got to replace that gas line. It's already broken. It's wanting to. Well, oh. I win. Oh, sorry, you can't see my head rub. Oh, that is so happy. That's happy news. Sweet. Well, I did not break the fuel line, but that doesn't mean it ain't gonna leak like I said, but I did twist a little. Fortunately, beating on it made it happy. I was so worried that it would do the typical brake line thing and just snap, twist in half. Okay, I'm gonna have to find a bucket. There is fuel in here coming out. Oh, that smells good. Alright, let me find a bucket. Well, we're gonna put a pause on that for now. Basically because I can't reach it. I did put a 1/4-inch socket and one of those screwdriver bits in there, and it didn't know. So we'll probably do it the way God intended, or the engineers, whichever they decide they are first. We're going to try to take these bolts out, nuts out, and see what snaps first. But we are going to eventually either just cut that rubber line or maybe fight with that archaic rusted piece of clamp, and we'll go from there. But I can set you up on the camera stand and have you guys watch me fight with this. Yay! Well, I've determined that this guy, might have to turn the light on. This guy, if my camera's pointing the right way, you know, you look straight down on it. Maybe I'm straight down, I don't know. Something gets in the road. So we're going to do this the old-fashioned way. So that piece is welded in. Let's see if this does anything. All it does is turn. Chances are I'm going to be replacing these anyway. I'm probably going to have to buy a new tank too, but oh, is it actually turning on there? Doesn't look like it. Well, I guess we'll find out. Nope, it's not turning on there. But this is what I thought it was. So we're buying a new one. Hopefully they come with bolts. Alright, we're gonna make a little noise. Do a little dance. You know that. Maybe. Alright. Well, we'll break the other one off. They come in a set of 2. Ouch. I don't like that little spring in there, but I guess they're necessary. No, it's not out. Yeah, I'm sawzalling that off. Okay. Well, the hard part's done. See what other kind of damage I can do. Okay, tank is out. And I don't know if you can hear it or not. Yeah, it was making all kinds of rattling noises. So, honestly though, I don't have everything to scrape with. When I do, if I can find it. Let's do that. Oh, I do have something. Top of the tank don't look all that bad. This is going to be right where the rust was at. There might be one I can clean up, maybe. I don't know what these little guys are. Just remember, folks, everything becomes a screwdriver or scraping tool or hammer. Had one guy comment. I made a comment on something. There was a tool and it said hammer. Or I said hammer. So I said, that's not a hammer. And I said, you haven't obviously worked in my garage. Everything becomes a hammer. Well, this would be where the rust hole is. I don't know if that's worth trying to straighten. Well, it might be. I mean, there's no... Well, down there might be. Here is a little crinkle, finger, down there in that bottom corner. And I don't know. I'll see what I can do. I know it needs to be cleaned out, and I know sooner or later I'll get this guy out of here. I'm thinking I can use a screwdriver and a hammer thing, because you know that always works. But that's something we'll try. Because if I don't have to spend $175 on a new gas tank, that'd be all right. My only other concern is this guy. Now I figure out how to take this pretty cap off, which I'm hoping unscrews or slides on and off, so I can get the filler neck out and clean it, because it's nasty in there. Looks pretty rough. But after a little cheapy Menards hardware store Sawzall action, this thing actually doubles as a jigsaw. You push this little red button here, and voila, jigsaw. I bought this after working with another employer, because one of the guys there had that, and we were cutting plastic with it, and that thing worked and worked and worked and worked. So I'm not afraid of it. I bought one. It cost me $50, and I think the batteries cost, you can buy two of them for like $45. Again, Menards, a cheap ass place to buy cheap ass tools. You don't have to break the bank. Just buy stuff to get you by for then, and if it lasts longer than what you need it for, it's a good tool. So yeah, this one's actually pretty good. And of course, I got my Harbor Freight Bauer stuff and Harbor Freight tools. I do have Craftsman. I do have Snap-on. I also have Pittsburgh. I don't have any. I mean, my brother had Snap-on. I don't know, somehow I ended up with some Snap-on sockets from somewhere. Anyway, those are Pittsburgh wrenches from Harbor Freight. I've been doing all this work with cheapy tools I buy because I'm cheap. And so far, everything's working. Even that socket, I got it from same place I bought this, a hardware store. Because I needed one I didn't know what size I needed, and I didn't want to spend $40 on another new socket set. You know, my stuff was in a different vehicle, so it worked. So again, we have successes. It stinks terrible, but let's see if I can't straighten that sucker out. We'll be back with results. Responsibly recycled fuel. Yay! So I've taken the fuel tank out, and after dumping the fuel out and listening to all the crumbs and things floating around in there, thinking we need to get a different fuel cell. That's the sending unit. I think that float is toast. But the ring came off. Everything came apart pretty easy, except for that rubber hose is shot. It was leaking anyway, so needs replaced. Other than that, tank's out. Unfortunately, as damaged as it is and how much crud's in the bottom, I'm gonna have to get a new tank. But such is life. Okay, let's try this one again. All right, so cut myself a piece of steel, and using the dead blow with a rounded end and the flat end, I made this. I made about 8,000 trips back and forth trying to measure and compare and see what I got going on. But pretty much, I mean, minor adjustments here and there. It's a little wide here, so I have to trim that down maybe. But of course, then again, if I get this edge flipped back up where it's supposed to be, it might fit better. And then cut that off so it's got a butt seam. But as it sets right now, she's getting real close. Gotta knock this end back down again. But like I said, for someone who don't know anything of what he's doing, it's turning out pretty good. To make a floor and make a patch, this isn't going to go to any auction house. Anybody wants to crawl underneath and inspect my my repair, they can. Just remember, I ain't no exploit. I might trim this down a little bit. Reason why I left that is, when you can push your thumbnail through it, probably needs replaced. Just guessing. But that's my attempt to repair this. And of course, I have to do a little grinding, a little sanding. A lot of, undercoating. We'll put some of that bumpy stuff underneath there. I think it's called, I don't even know what it's called, some kind of bed lining or something like that. Spray it on the bottom, make it permanent. But yeah, from here on in, we're going to be experimenting with my piece of railroad track and my one hammer. See if we can't repair some of this stuff. Because I've got a lot to do. Got all, except for the body mounts on the front of the car. I mean, firewall front. Those are the only two I don't have to fix or repair. So yeah, this is going to be a little bit of an excursion. I might let you watch on high speed what I did on the next one. This is my practice one, see if I can even do it. I'm pretty impressed. Bless me for I've sinned. Well, that's the results of my butchery. Got all my holes filled. Like I said, I'm going to use something to seal those seams. But got everything done I needed to do here. I'll do a little bit of grinding and smoothing off some of this stuff, and we're going to call that good enough. And then we're going to move on to these troublemakers. I might have to replace a battery in my welding helmet because it's flashing at me, so we'll get back at it as soon as I get the flashies taken care of. Well, we're back. Looks like I got into a car accident. Oh, wait. Oh, that was 2 months ago. Anyway, what am I doing? Oh yeah, I'm beating on a piece of steel. I'm going to show you what I've already got done, and then I'm going to show you how I'm tweaking it. Mind the glove. Alright, just give you some sort of an idea what I'm trying to recreate. I'm trying to recreate that shape, which I'm actually pretty close. And I'll show you what I got. Using the same technique I just showed you. I'm jabbing myself in the guts with a broom. I made another curve. Now it looks like I'm going to have to take some kind of a flat piece and straighten that out. Here and here. To make it look like that or that. But I may have the right lift on that curve, and of course I'm going to have to make two pieces because this is actually a ring that goes underneath, and then they slap this piece on top, and they both kind of sandwich themselves together. It's just extra support. That thing is pretty darn close. I got a little more tweaking, you know, got to make it flat, got to shape it a little bit more. But that's what I'm doing. Using a hammer. I mean, yes, people have told me use these. When you get back here, that's a long ways down. And when you use these, that's nowhere, I mean, it's partway there. Maybe I can hammer that out a lot. I might try that. Honestly, haven't really put a whole lot of thought into it. I could do the same thing with both of those, but I still need a piece underneath. So I'm going to continue making those pieces, and then maybe, just maybe, I'll make one of these into one of those. I've been looking at this all day yesterday, trying to figure out how to make that work. And right there, that might actually work. These are 4-inch pipe plugs. And to show you what they look like, basically look like that. And a set of 2 cost you $21. I bought 2 sets because who knows what I'm going to need. And I got some 3-inch, those are 4-inch. This is a 3-inch, just a cover plate. And I don't know how well you'll be able to see without the lights on. Let me throw one on, see if I can put a little light on the subject. I mean, this one will work. Yep. Back door. This one will probably work there. Matter of fact, it will work really nicely underneath there. Maybe. Still got to come up. You can't see it, but it's got to come up quite a bit, and that doesn't come up much at all. Plus, I've got to replace, I'll get my arm out of the road, from the beginning of that hole to right here. So I got a big chunk of plastic to replace, or plastic. Thank you, plastic bag. Anyway, this one could work there, except for I've got to replace all of this. However, that might work underneath. I don't know. We shall find out. Like I said, I'm not a body man. I'm not a professional at any of this. Obviously, it shows. But I'm just a guy with a dream and get himself way over his head. But large projects start with small projects. So my one project is that plate back there that I got done. And now I have, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 of those, plus the floor. So I'm doing one thing at a time and calling it a win when I'm done. So, you know, if you make it a big, oh my God, I got all this shit to do, pardon my French, got all these things to do, well, you start by doing one thing at a time. Like, I cleaned out the seats, cleaned out the interior, so I know what the heck I've got going on. Then I took the dash apart, and I did one piece of wire at a time. Redid my wiring loom, which part of it's laying back there, part of it's draped over the front of the car. I've got pieces and parts scattered everywhere. And I did a little bit of cleaning on these windshields. That gray may actually come out, that white on the bottom. So, I mean, just take your time. This is not scheduled to be anywhere at any time soon. So I have plenty of time to do this. And I may want to sell it. So I'm going to make this thing safe enough for me to drive. Well, safer than for me to drive, because I've driven some really sketchy stuff, but I want this thing to be nice. So I'm going to do one little piece at a time, and unfortunately it's going to take forever. It's not going to be one of these, can I get it running? No. For one, the engine was locked up, and it took some carnage to get that apart. Now I know how to beat a 6-cylinder motor apart without destroying everything. Unfortunately, I've destroyed things, and push rods are not as easy to come by as I was hoping they were. Place I had them sourced at, either I didn't look in the same place, or they don't have them anymore. So, mind the nose dripping, it's cold out here. I will have to do some investigating and see what I can come up with. But, project continues. Everyone gets excited. Oh, this is, you're restoring it to be... No, not to be perfect. I'm restoring it to my standards. And my standards are, try to be as complete-ish as you can. Then learn something about the car as you go. It's like, I'm going to have to raise this body to get that underplate in there and replace the bushings and all this other stuff I have to do. Like, there's a little light on the subject for you. Right about, move. I'll get you a towel. Here, this is a laid over piece where they, just laid over piece and then put roofing tar all over everything. Well, this has come apart. And I haven't dug all the way down here to see what else has come apart. But as you can see, this thing's trying to kill me. Somebody call a cop. Anyway, as you can see, there's the seam again. Got some ventilation in there. Speed holes is what other people call them. And maybe if I get this thing angled down here, you can see how much room I've got to come up with where that 4-inch round thing. I suppose I could bend it up 5/8 of an inch where it's a 1/4 inch now. I might be able to do that. We'll just play with it and see. Then I got to figure out how to drill. Well, I know how to do that. Speed bits are your friend. They make any size hole you need as quickly as possible. So, with that in mind, that's a 1/2 inch sleeve on that nut, I think. And you can see how much bigger that rubber nipple looking thing on top of the motor mount or body mount is. I've got to slide that piece of steel around the top of it. It's almost like they use a 3/4 hole saw to do that. That could be done. And it looks like this part of the body is settled, where that part of the body is not. So you got to jack the car up anyway. So we're going to make them as level as possible. And then we put it all together. Hopefully it levels out the car. Again, this thing was moved around with basically a forklift, hence the destroyed gas tank. And part of this little spare tire well is no longer flat. It kind of leans like this, kind of like my phone is. So, other things. Yes, my cheapy ass tools. Anybody know where to get the rubber cover for this? Would be great to know. Because obviously that one fell apart. And I kind of did some looking and no one's got that stuff. They've got all the way up to maybe a 2-inch, and that's a 3 1/4 inch hole. May just have to cut up a used inner tube and put a flat piece of steel over it and self-tapper it down. And you know what I'm talking about. Go watch Pole Barn Garage. He's a self-tapper king. Anyway, back to reality. I got more banging to do. See you in a bit. Okay, so that took me a lot less time than I thought it would. But as you can tell, it's pretty close. Since there's going to be another piece of metal in here, I don't know how much more I want to go down with this. But that's not bad. That's something I can push with a, you know, I can manipulate that and make it do what I want it to do. If I need to push it down to weld it in, it's done. So, not pretty, need a little more massaging, probably. But I got 2 plates done now. And it cost me $50 for that big sheet metal in there. And I just gotta make a bigger hole. And now I've got replacement sheet metal for a hole in the floor. Like I said, it took me 5 minutes to do the second one. It took me 4 hours to do the first one. But now I have a template. I can redo this 2 more times to get the other side. And then we're set. Not bad for messing around in the garage, huh? I mean, it's not factory, but it's going to support that car. And that's all I really wanted to do. Get this thing back on the road so I'm not, you know, having my vehicle fall apart or fall off the frame. So we'll just keep doing this. I'm pretty ecstatic about all that. Now that I've smoked up my safety glasses, these are nice, but as you can tell, I have an enormous amount of body heat and they never clear. And they got vents and everything, but this temperature, or any temperature, I can fog up glasses. Okay, so here's the first one I did. And of course it was all twisty turny and I did some relief cuts in it. So what I did is I made the second one, put those relief cuts in it already. And I'm going to put it in my press and I'll press out another one. Let's see how that works out. So I've got to trim a little bit of the excess off, but this is where it's going to go. As you can see, it fits really nicely in there. It's going to rotate to about like that. I got to cut this extra chunk off of there. But the other piece underneath there, I should be able to weld my cuts. Actually, I'll probably do the bottom one, get it all premoed up, and then just weld this top one to it. but can't see that. All right. These two pieces of metal actually sandwich between this body mount and that body mount. So, and then you can see right here, probably said something about this earlier. Don't mind the rust, it's going away. This is a support ring. It goes up here. And then that piece of steel would have been over the top of it. Well, you can tell it's fairly Bluetooth right now. So I'm probably going to cut all this out and then splice that in, and then of course do whatever repairs I need to make those welds or those relief cuts solid enough, and then we will attach it. But again, I have to lift the body off, so I'm going to get as many of these made as I can, and then we'll jack the body up and see what we can do there. I don't have the new body mounts, but at least I'll have this set and ready to go for when they get here. At least that's my hope. Anyway, that's what I'm doing today. What are you doing? Okay, so here's what I've been doing. I've been putting some, cutting some wedges into these and pressing them like before, and then I fold down the edges like before. I mean, aside from a bit of a gap there, which can either be filled by welding or slapping some roofing compound on, since that's never been done to this car. That turned out pretty darn nice. I'm pretty impressed with me trying stuff that I've never thought of before. Definitely playing outside of my box, but seems to be working. So I've got some more patch panels made. Go ahead and press this one out, and I'll show you what it looks like. And there we are. I got the top and I got the bottom plate made. I wouldn't say to perfection, but I got her pretty good for someone that don't know what the heck they're doing and cheating, but it looks pretty nice. If I'd have known that with those, I'd have started off that way instead, but you know, this is working pretty good. Kind of liking it. I have all of the floor mounts, or the trunk mounts, made. And like I showed you before, now I got to figure out what to do with the front ones. Easy now. That guy right there is going to pose me maybe a little bit of a problem, but honestly, probably not. Basically do the same thing, then figure out how to put a flat piece in there, or just make a flat piece and weld a corner around it. I don't know. I think I might have a little issue right there. And then over here is going to be a little more fun. There's a depression here, which I don't know. I know there's a seam there. That's got a big divot in it, which I could probably just use a hammer on. This one I can press out like I did the others, but still gonna make a long piece, which, well, probably isn't gonna be a problem. Or I can just hammer it down. I'll figure it out. maybe. But I do know we got a few more miles of repairs to go. And I think I'm going to focus on getting the sheet metal laid out. Especially get all this stuff, the motor or the body mounts figured and sorted. And then start working on the floor. I was going to buy a piece, but there's a support bracket that comes out from the frame. It hits the bottom of the floor pan. At least that's what I can devise by looking at the other side over there. That's actually still mostly there. I mean, except for all the garbage I've got laying on the floor and things scattered everywhere. These are not beer cans laying around. I mean, not that I haven't thought of that, but we are definitely gaining. I'm really actually kind of proud of those. These, not so much, but they will work. Actually, that one right there, that's the one I'm really impressed with. And it's saying a lot. I don't impress even with my own work. That one turned out really nice. It's not as close to the shape, and it's definitely welded in. I mean, I'm talking about the contours and stuff. That's not the exact roundness there by the hammer. But, like I said, this ain't going to be a concourse car. This is going to be one that gets down the road and get to drive in it. And we're going to resurrect it from the dead, because it was definitely dead. But we're going to get it better. I know this guy. I know a guy. You know a guy? I know a guy. So now we know guys. I'm going to get back to trying to figure out a way to make stuff. See you in a bit. Alright, so I got the bolt loose and started beating on the bottom. And as you can tell, that's going to come out as a solid unit. Oops. Already broke loose everywhere. There's no nut left on the top. Like that one. So I put the vice grip on it, but I don't think it mattered. This thing's rusted in there, excuse me, pretty tight. So, got my influencer out, see if I can push it up. May have to get a punch out. Push it the rest of the way through. But we're gonna get at that, get that knocked out. I did some more looking around. There's a lot of rust right here in the corner. A lot of rust right here. Gonna have to do a lot of repair. I mean, that's gone. Basically, it's gone underneath the trim here. So there's gonna be a lot of repair going on. But I think I can get it. As long as I can get a shape to go by. I found out what that divot is. It actually goes down to that metal plate underneath. I don't know what it does. It's just goes down there and touches the plate. So maybe it just helps lift the body a little bit. I don't know. I mean, it's all attached to the body, so not really sure what it does. I'm sure some engineer knows. But yeah, this is pretty much what I got going on. I beat on the bottom of it with my other hammer. And then I got this to pop loose, so we'll get to swinging away and see what happens. So in continuation, you kind of see what's going on here. Ouch. I got wedged down in here. There used to be a collar that goes around, basically a support for the bottom piece of metal and the top piece of metal. I think it's finally gone the way of the dodo. Might be on the floor now, I don't know. But I do know that that bolt is so corroded into the rubber that it will not let loose. So I'm going to try cutting the top off of this and then grabbing that punch I was talking about and see if I can't drive it back through the bottom. But let me get you down here underneath, turn my super light on, blind us all. But you can see, well, you will here in a minute. Let me, oh, come on, leg. I've got too many cables laying around here on the floor right here. Don't mind the dirt. I don't. Just turn my little space heater off. And turn him back on. Right. He's back on. Somewhere around here. Light situated. Oh, there it is. Oh, that isn't it. Somewhere around here. Where did it go? Oh, there he is. Alright, you see the bolt. And you see what looks like a metal sleeve. I think. It's rusted in there pretty tight. And it is loose, but you see up here, there's a little extra support down below the floor. Looks like that's correct. Once I get everything removed, I'll be able to repair the Bluetooth going on. And yeah, I think I'm going to have to lift the body anyway, so I'm probably going to have to, once I get it lifted, get the rest of this out. I get it to focus. Focus! Maybe I'm not focused. There we go. Cheater's down so I can see what I'm talking about. But anyway, that's got to get repaired. Just a lot of little piddly stuff, but I need to support the car, so I need to get that taken out. I can actually see the rubber spinning when I turn the washer on the top of this bolt. So that's not real good. That means that piece of metal is basically gone. The only thing holding it up is back here where it hasn't rusted through yet. So that's going to be another addition. You can tell the rockers are pretty much toast right here. I mean, that's back here seems to be the worst. On the other side, it's a lot worse. But yeah, there's just going to be a little bit of sheet metal repair on all of this. Get things reattached to where they're supposed to be, maybe. I think it's supposed to be there. Doesn't look like it's welded to it, but it probably used to be. Oh yeah. Yeah. We'll get to that later. You can see where the separation here is happening. So we'll have to get that reattached. But anyway, that's the update I have for now. Alright, we have successes. I used my chisel here to split this open. After investigating, I noticed there was a crack in it, so I thought, let's get the hammer out, start beating on things. So apparently, you can tell by the way that it is. I know, I'm gonna owe Derek a lot of money using all of his terms. But that just kind of locks in on itself, slides over the bolt, and supports the rubber. I don't know, put some kind of support in there. Basically, it's a spacer in between the two pieces of rubber, and it squishes down, and once you get everything tightened down to it, you stop. I don't know. Anyway, this is the bolt that I got out. Again, she looks a little rough, but push come to shove, I can reuse it. But chances of me needing to reuse it, or ever wanting to, are slim to none. This is the top bushing. It's given up the ghost. This is the washer on top of it. And I'm assuming that that little sleeve, if it was still around, bottom out in there, along with the washer. Oh, that's the bottom one. So yeah, that washer. And I'm sure there used to be a washer. No, there's still a washer on top of this one. You can just see it through the sheet metal that's about gone. And that was under the bolt until it's really thick steel. I believe it's 19 gauge, but there was, if I can find him, let's see if I can find him. It seemed like there was another piece in there. Like I said, it might have dropped on the floor. All the banging and hammering and stuff. There we are. There he is. So I'm assuming that was a spacer. What's left of it, that would have gone up or down to kind of like so. So I'm going to have to come up with a chunk of pipe or something to put in between there to support that. And of course I'm going to have to grind around a little bit. Cut some of this away so I can replace it. And like I said, when I get the body up, I'll replace that piece of support. She's looking pretty bad. But learning stuff. So if you come into the same position where you get the bottom washer off, or you've got this sleeve in there, just kind of pry it apart. Don't know if I can reuse that. Don't know if I want to. However, I can get a chunk of cold rolled steel and cut a hunk off of that. Make it fit. There might be a spacer somewhere I can use. But that's where we're at with that, so we will continue on wherever the next one ran off to. Oh, there he is. Okay, let me bring you back into my menagerie. Alright, I think you can see it there, if I can hold still long enough. Right here, there's a little riser piece, probably 1.25 inch piece of steel. I think it's actually welded or pressed, and it's kind of rounded here. I don't know. Let me turn the light on, blind everybody, or at least me. Yep. Kind of looks like it's pressed in there. I don't know. It also kind of looks like they might have added a piece. I don't know what it looks like, but it's actually a spacer between the bottom sheet of metal and the top sheet. And of course there's that big old plate underneath it. And I believe, at least I want to, this is all just expanded from rust metal. Maybe it's an extra piece. Kind of looks like there might be two pieces here. Kind of, this looks like it's in bad shape, but it's going to be something I'm going to have to replace. Oops, don't mind the glove. But that's what I've come across. So, and of course this one's corroded to the bottom too. So, I have to look at that other bolt and see if those are two separate units or it's a big ass washer in the top of that one. But somehow I'm going to get those separated. I'll probably have to cut the top off of that bolt, push it back through the rest of the way. Which I kind of did with that other one back there, but it kind of, it was fighting. So this one, I can't get it to move because that collar's there. So I can't pry off the sleeve that's on the bolt until I get it drove apart. And yeah, we'll just have to play it by ear from there, but you can tell, I mean, there's just a lot of carnage in here. A lot of metal replacement I'm gonna have to do. That actually was attached to something, I think. I'll have to crawl underneath and look again, see what's on the other side. But, yep, that's where we're at. Okay. Oh, also, while I'm thinking about it, did actually get the trim off. And believe it or not, all the bolts came out, or screws came out. And if anybody knows where there's decent trim, other than just the Jungle website, I also noticed after I scraped all the tar off back here, which kind of just popped off, that this floor is welded to the bottom. You can see kind of where the spot welds are. I'll hit that with my sanding disc. And again, we got some repairs to do, but how far down the rabbit hole do I want to go? So, yeah, I don't know if you can see it. Yeah. That would have been covered in tar and then just rotted away from the bottom. And doesn't, well, of course it could just be the rust and stuff, but doesn't look like that straight of a piece. So, you know, they did what they could and then they covered it in tar to seal it. So, you know, quality engineering there. It actually looks like that's pushed away. All right, enough of the investigating. Time to get back to work. Like I said, I want to focus on the body mounts first, and then we'll do all this other stuff later. But I got to repair this floor. That's going to be a big chunk, I think. Because I got to fix that back there with this here. And then that big mess of whatever. And that big mess of whatever. And, well, yeah. You get the point. But something I was telling myself, I first started this when I cut that piece for the back Hold on, let me turn you around. So when I first started this endeavor of cutting things apart and making plates to replace it with, I was actually kind of nervous about doing it. Then I made that piece and I got a little less nervous, and then I cut that piece out and got a little less nervous, and then I welded it in. So yeah, I mean, this is the first time I've done most of this stuff. I mean, I've done welding, I've never replaced floor panels or anything like that. I've watched a lot of people do it on YouTube, and my skills as a welder is not good. Not bad, but not good. And you just gotta adjust to the situation, you know. Just like making those plates. I tried one thing and then I tried another, and that seemed to work. Of course, I'm going to try a bunch of other things, see if they work. But I kept telling myself, it's only sheet metal. Yeah, there's a lot of engineering in this sheet metal, but it's just sheet metal. It's all sheet metal stamped out in a perfect or a certain shape to do a certain thing, and then it's spot welded together, and then it becomes a car. So I didn't envision the name Dallas County Iron for anything other than I actually was going to start doing custom motorcycles. And we see where that went. 24 years later, or 21 years later, it's still sitting on the stand. But I'm getting incentives now. And if I can make this decent, I mean, it's not going to be a concourse vehicle. I mean, let's be real. The guy, that old white-haired dude that walked on, I think it was Discovery or Velocity or something, he would go through and he would, you know, pick down to the finest detail on every vehicle he come across. Well, he'd just laugh his ass off at this, but it's going to be secure. We're going to make it so nothing's going to fall off. I know there's easier ways to make this look like a running, driving car. I want to bring it back as far as my capabilities will make it. And see what I come up with. I mean, that's all this is. There's a lot of work. I mean, I got a lot of rust to replace. Surprisingly enough, that first panel I made didn't take that, well, it took about a day for me to get it all the way I wanted it. But the rest of these are moving pretty quick, and now that I've got a taste for how to make this stuff work, my fear level has gone way down. So I guess what I'm trying to say is, you can see a project, you can buy a big old car, and then the whole thing is going to overwhelm you. But like I said, little projects. You know, pull the dash out. That's one project. Don't lose it. That's another project. Try to itemize your stuff with Ziploc bags. You know, if you care about it or want to try to care about it, keep your stuff together. Know where it's at. Of course, I've got screws and bolts laying all over the floor of this car that I hope I remember where I put what they come from. But, you know, that's my problem, not yours. But if you're going to do a project like this, be prepared. It's going to take a minute. I mean, I bought this in July, I think. And now it's January, so that's 6 months. And I'm not really any closer to having a running vehicle than I was when I started. I mean, it's tore down, but, you know, I gotta wait for money to come in to do that. Gotta wait for money to come in to do this. Right now, I've got materials on hand. I can do a lot of the body work, or at least get the mounts back, except for that front. I might haven't quite decided what I'm going to do with that yet. Thinking probably going to have to rebuild that support from the body to the floor, and hope I can figure out how they did it on the other side, if it's not too far gone. And then we'll just keep going. But like I said, you just gotta one thing at a time. That patch in the trunk floor. Okay, that was project. I started doing one of the trunk mounts. That's a project. Small projects. Don't get too far ahead of yourself. Just do a couple things and till you're satisfied with that, and then move on to another thing. Just like this wiring harness. I had all the lengths. I bought a bunch of wire. And I made wiring harnesses, which I thought was pretty amazing. And of course I had a schematic that helped me track where everything was at. But, you know, it's a project. And no, this isn't the outro. Should be. Sounds pretty good. Maybe I will. Never know. But I'm going to get back to removing stuff and investigating. I'm probably going to do the floor trims, or the door floor trim on the other side, door trims, whatever they call it. I know it's a name. And we'll go from there. Still got to decide what I want to do with that bolt. So I'll distract myself with something else until I decide I'm going to do what I wanted to do in the first place. So we will catch up with you later. Okay, I'm going to end this video here because I've got way too much footage. And I don't think you guys want to sit through 2 hours plus of me talking and doing stuff. So, again, I appreciate you guys being patient with me and waiting for the videos. Again, like and share if you feel like it. If you enjoy the content, great. I appreciate it. I really do. What I'm going to do next, if I remember correctly, is we're going to take the frame down and take body panels off, and we'll go through that. I did actually get all of the body mounts put on, so that'll show up in the next video, me doing all that. So again, like, subscribe, share, and again, I appreciate everything you guys have done so far, giving me comments and ideas. It's actually been very helpful. So keep up making comments. I do appreciate it. And we'll see you in the next video.